Hafa-day, and thanks for tuning into PNC's News First. We are broadcasting live in Guam and in Saipan. I'm Tim Blas-McHenry.
And I'm Janella Carrera. Thanks for joining us tonight. Topping your news first, Monsignor James Beneventi has been vindicated. At a press conference today and in the presence of many of Monsignor James's supporters, Archbishop Savio Hontai-Fai and Father Jeff St. Nicholas cleared him of any wrongdoing. Here's more. It's been 2 years since Archbishop Anthony Apparon fired Monsignor James Beneventi from the position of rector of the Cathedral Basilica and director of the Catholic cemeteries. At the time he was removed, Archbishop Apparon accused Monsignor James of financial mismanagement. Archbishop Apparon never gave Monsignor James, however, a chance to respond to the allegations. It wasn't until a few months ago that Monsignor James finally got that due process, and now, 2 years later, and after a very public outcry over his removal, Monsignor James has been vindicated. Father Jeff St. Nicholas read a statement written by Apostolic Administrator Archbishop Savio Hontai-Fai.
I hereby declare that Monsignor Beneventi's response is found both credible and satisfactory, and that none of these alleged major irregularities should be held valid. I thus declare that the decision of his removal be considered invalid, and any statement released from the Archdiocese against him or any of his staff in this matter ought to be considered invalid.
Thank you for your prayers. Thank you.
For the first time since he was removed 2 years earlier, Monsignor James addressed the public.
Having been able to respond directly to these alleged financial irregularities, we now know today that truth and justice have once again prevailed.
At the time he was accused of mismanagement and fraud, Archbishop Apparon had noted that the finances of the Archdiocese were in such a mess that an audit was impossible. Thus, the report that was used to remove Monsignor James was not an official audit. Some of the findings of that January 2014 report, put together by accounting firm Deloitte & Touche, were that the Catholic cemeteries incorrectly stated assets, including land they didn't own, then used those overstated assets to secure a loan. Missing documents related to $3.8 million in assets, and an increase in liability by $800,000, among other allegations. We asked Father Jeff what were the results of the recent report he conducted that finally cleared Monsignor James of wrongdoing.
In terms of the details in the investigation, what I will say is that right from the beginning, unfortunately, the process was very askew in that so many things were published publicly about accusations against Monsignor James, and that in itself was a violation of due process, that he never received that. That's enough publicity. It's already out there in the media. What we're trying to do is to move forward from those things that were stated and to clear him from those things.
Although he's been cleared and his good name now restored, Monsignor James won't be returning to his previous positions of rector and director of the Catholic cemeteries.
So Monsignor James right now is the parochial vicar, or has been up until today, and effective today, the 30th, he is now named as pastor of St. Anthony's Church.
Asked what he would like to say to Archbishop Apparon, this is what Monsignor James had to say.
I always pray for the Archbishop whenever I celebrate the Eucharist. I remember him in my intentions, and that's what I do. I've been doing that ever since, and there's no reason why for me to stop doing that.
Meanwhile, just moments after he was vindicated, a complaint was filed against Monsignor James Beneventi for allegedly spending over $13,000 in church money for his personal use. PNC obtained a board resolution from the Catholic cemeteries of the Archdiocese of Agana, signed by attorney Jackie Terlahi, who also represents Archbishop Anthony Apparon in a separate libel and slander lawsuit filed by 4 of the Archbishop's alleged sex abuse victims. The report from the Catholic cemeteries was sent to both the Guam Police Department and the Attorney General's office today. In the report, it states that 2 checks were written to a Joshua Perez totaling $13,620 for the purpose of Monsignor James's 20th anniversary dinner back in June and July of 2014. However, attached to the report is also a receipt from the Catholic cemeteries for the reimbursement of the $13,000 from Monsignor James's family. Not long after Monsignor James' anniversary dinner, he was fired by Archbishop Anthony Apparon as the director of the Catholic cemeteries and rector of the Cathedral Basilica. PNC reached out to Monsignor James for his response, but he was unavailable for comment as of news time.
Well, the Holy See is now in the preliminary stages of assembling a trial court for Archbishop Anthony Apparon, who is facing several allegations of sexual abuse and rape. Father Jeff St. Nicholas, responding to media inquiries today about the status of Apparon's trial, says he's received word that the Vatican is only in the early stages and that trial has not yet begun. At least 4 alleged victims have come forward with allegations of sexual abuse against Apparon. Roy Quintanilla, Walter Denton, Roland Sondia, and Doris Conception, on behalf of her deceased son, Joseph Kanata, say Apparon sexually abused them when they were altar servers at the Mount Carmel Church in Agate back in the 1970s. In addition, another former altar boy, Ramon de Plata, also alleged that back in 1964 he had witnessed Apparon, at the time just a seminarian, and another priest sexually abusing another altar server.
I believe they are in the process of formulating the court, as Archbishop Hahn has shared with me. It is not as if they have a sitting or a standing court. These kind of cases are very rare in our church, so they need to put together the mechanisms, the people, in order to have that type of trial. So they're in this kind of preliminary stage right now.
Well, it's not clear where Archbishop Apparon is currently staying. The last public comment he made was about a month ago when he responded to allegations that he defied Pope Francis's orders to lift a deed restriction on the multi-million-dollar Jontnia property.
Martin Manglotnia, former administrator of the Office of Veterans Affairs, says he is shocked by the audit report conducted by the Office of Public Accountability on the Office of Veterans Affairs. PNC's Rebecca Elmore sat down with Manglotnia to get his side of the story. Here's more.
Well, this is incorrect because I got implicated because it says from 2011 to 2016.
Okay, so you're saying the date.
This problem was there before I came.
The Office of Public Accountability has released an audit report on the Guam Veterans Affairs Office, stating the Veterans Affairs Fund, the Veterans Cemetery Trust Fund, were, quote, grossly mismanaged and not accounted for, end quote. The OPA cited a lack of significant internal controls over the non-appropriated funds. However, former administrator Martin Manglotnia contacted PNC today to, quote, set the record straight as to where the responsibility of the audit lies.
I was so shocked to see on the newspaper about the allegation of mismanagement of the Veterans Affairs Office since 2011 to 2016. But what stays on this paper is incorrect. What the public auditor citing before I took over in May 2015.
Even with the OPA claiming that both he and former Administrator John Umpinko failed to properly document how the non-appropriated funds were spent, Manglotnia says he believes Umpinko still followed the law. As for Manglotnia,
well, that's incorrect. Since I took over, I started record management. First of all, they never audited my office since I took over. The public auditor came in May 2016, right before I departed the office, but they're investigating those receipts and expenditures on the cemetery funds in 2011 to 14, but not in the current administration.
according to the OPA's audit, however, $290,000 in non-appropriated funds were not properly documented.
And there was something about $290,000.
That's why I was shocked, because I never seen that money. This is before I came in.
Of that $290,000, the audit shows that Manglotnia spent close to $46,000. Also, according to the audit, there were at least 34 checks totaling about $74,000 paid under the label petty cash during former Administrator John Umpinko's management. And although the audit explicitly says there is, quote, no evidence of deliberate misuse of funds under either administrators, OPA says a lack of proper documentation and record keeping is just one of the ways the VAO did not appropriately handle both the Veterans Affairs Fund and the Guam's Veterans Cemetery Funds. Public Auditor Doris Flores Brooks was not available to comment by news time. You can read the full audit online at pacificnewscenter.com. For PNC's News First, I'm Rebecca Elmore.
All right, well, don't go anywhere. PNC's News First. We'll be right back.